Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us at today's Deloitte session on digital lean manufacturing. My name is Kay Yelasiv. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Brenna Sniderman, who's our Centre for Integrated Research lead, and Luciano, who leads our lean manufacturing practice here in the UK. So, Brenna, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
I know you've just written a paper on digital lean manufacturing. Can you tell us why you decided to write on this topic?
Sure, that's a great question, Kay, and I'm glad to be here. So a couple of things. We have been getting a lot of questions from clients about applying digital technologies to help us augment lean principles. And lean, as you know, is something that is fairly well known in manufacturing. Lean principles are used to minimize waste, to enable greater productivity, and really to identify parts of a process that don't add value and address them. Um, if lean is implemented properly, it can drive greater efficiency, and it does so by emphasizing things like cost reduction, waste elimination, and relying on customer demands. So because lean is a data-based approach to decision making and tracking root causes, it really is a perfect fit for digital technologies. And Deloitte has been doing a lot of research over the last few years and a lot of work on what we call Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution, which uses digital technologies to help drive better decisions in manufacturing and other processes. So where digital comes into digital lean is that it enables us to operate lean principles, but do so more quickly, more flexibly, and to identify areas of inefficiency that maybe we hadn't seen before, or address them more quickly. So with digital lean, a manufacturer can build on the lean processes they'd already had and use tools like machine learning or predictive maintenance to solve problems sometimes before they occur, to unlock new levels of productivity, and in some cases to really help to illuminate things we hadn't seen before. Using digital technologies will enable us to make our decisions more accurate, more precise, and in a timelier way, and moving away from experiences to using data to make decisions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Brenna. And Luciano, over to you. So can you give us some examples of how traditional and digital lean work together?
Yes, thank you, Kay. So what we have seen in the last 20, 30 years is clients have adopted lean principles and they have transformed the way they operate their factories. But where previously they were successful, now it just became harder and harder to identify additional opportunity of improvement. And that's where I believe is where digital and lean come together. And especially what we have seen is the use on analytics to identify more and more opportunity for improvement. For example, we helped an automotive manufacturer to identify some of the root causes around recurrent microstops that they had on a specific section of their assembly line. Was not just about the capability of harnessing the data and understanding the data, but was also as well the ability to predict, for example, information and transform the way they were carrying out maintenance. So by moving maintenance to a more predictive level, they managed to improve their OE of double digit, but as well as have a reduction of those microstop and therefore an improvement of the overall performance. Another interesting example is the use of big data and the simulation to enhance the way you plan manufacturing. And what in traditional lean is used is Ajanka. So it's the sequencing of a production line according to both the demand and the process constraint. The traditional Ajanka is focused on a specific production line, creates stability, standardize the processes, but sometimes what is optimal for a production line may not mean that is optimal for the entire end-to-end supply chain. And this is again where analytics and data can enable manufacturers to better understand the repercussion of a specific optimal point to the inbound and outbound of the processes. And that's where the use of simulation, simulating millions and millions of different scenarios can enable manufacturers to identify the optimal state, not only for a specific production line, but for the whole end-to-end operation.
Very interesting. So Luciano's given us some examples there. Brenna, can you give us some of the other benefits of digital lean?
Sure. And I think Luciano really hit upon some great points here, talking about some specific use cases. What we've seen is that, as I noted earlier, digital technologies can help us be more accurate and precise. One of the things that we have seen about the optimization curve for traditional lean is that over time it does plateau. But digital lean enables us to add incremental value. And in the work that we've done, we've estimated some of the benefits of digital lean. So if we're looking at, say, improved asset efficiencies, asset utilization, optimized capacity, we're seeing potential benefits of 10 to 20%. Or improved quality, improved yield is sometimes between 10 to 35%. We've been able to reduce costs using digital lean by 20 to 30%, and some have seen improved safety and sustainability levels improve by 3 to 10%. One perfect example of this is an example that we actually discussed in the article, Kay, that you noted at the beginning of this interview, which was a global leader in plastics that had used traditional lean principles in the past, but still really didn't have the visibility into their data. They hadn't standardized their processes in the right way. And so they couldn't meet sustainability and innovation goals, and were having eroding margins and lower productivity. So they enacted a digital lean set of capabilities. They built a digital manufacturing core that captured a great deal of data that they could then analyze using analytics to make more informed choices about performance improvements. The other thing they did, which I think is critical, is they hired a chief digital officer and teams that had the digital expertise to help facilitate digital transformation among the shop floor and those who would be using the tools on a day-to-day basis. And what this meant was they were able to transform their organization and generate improvements of about 20 million annually. They reduced their costs by 15% per line per year. They improved their overall equipment effectiveness by 11%. And they were able to do this using digital as well as ensuring adoption by the workforce.
And in today's economic environment, I think any cost savings is a very welcome. So Luciano, what are the challenges of digital lean and how should our clients avoid them?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few challenges when implementing digital lean, but I guess there are two in particular that I would like to share with you today. The first one is about avoid to focus on technology, but instead focus on the value that the technology brings. And the second one is about designing solutions with a great user experience. So focus on value instead of technology is basically key, as Brenna also just mentioned, how important is value and what the digital lean can drive. We have seen many clients running pilots to prove the technology, but they forget to identify what is the value that this technology can bring in terms of efficiency improvement, in terms of quality improvement, etc. So in order to avoid this, the approach needs to shift. It needs to be a value-driven approach that is actually in line with traditional lean, where value added, no value added type of analysis drive the focus of improvement activities. So it's also important to consider that when implementing digital lean, digital lean requires high capital investment compared to traditional lean. And for this reason, you want to focus on where the value is and where there is a step change improvement opportunity that can drive high yield benefit. And ideally, you want to back these activities with a solid business case. The other challenge I mentioned is around designing solution with great user experience. In the paper, we mentioned around how change management was key for traditional lean and is as well key for digital lean. Again, it's a shift in culture, is where now decisions are made, move away from, are made not anymore based just on experience, but now they move and they rely on data. So this shift requires the ability for example, an operator to access the right data at the right time with the best user experience as possible. So a great way to basically achieve it is by using, as used in traditional lean, the bottom-up approach, where the people that are close to the process are the ones that drive and design the implementation of the solution. So digital design techniques like persona-based or user journey description can help to identify the right requirements for those final users and design the way each of those persona interact with the data and make the decisions every day.
And we've heard some great use cases. And so how would you recommend to both of you, how would you recommend that our clients get started with digital lean?
So I'll build on a point Luciano just made about finding the right starting point. It's really critical to do so. I mean, what we have seen, it's fairly common to choose a plant or a line or process that you already understand fairly well. But even in those cases, organizations need to evaluate people, process, technology, and they need to choose the exact starting point where they want to get started. Because if the effort is targeted, it can generate impact quickly that is much more measurable. What we would recommend is to achieve the greatest ROI, focus on building capabilities in the largest areas of your opportunity, which can be unlocking the capacity of constrained assets, improving strategic asset efficiency, work on quality improvement, decreasing labor spend, or decreasing or eliminating raw material costs. The way we typically talk about this is this notion of thinking big, starting small, and scaling fast. When you think big, you have a vision, and that helps guide the capabilities you want to develop. We have found that companies can use a digital foundry for this purpose, which helps to set a mission and manages a portfolio for digital lean investments and activities to develop and enables you to scale across the enterprise. But you need to start small with something that's manageable, a pilot like Luciano referred to, where you can capture measurable value and where you can enact change management on a manageable level to start among people, process, and technology. So when you're thinking about that, you might want to think about where there is a compelling operational issue, where there is a production line or a work cell where you've got a critical issue that you need to solve, or an asset that's widely used in the plant that could really benefit from change. You want to think about the readiness of the people, the processes, and the technologies you've already got up and running, because if people don't want to experiment, or they don't really have much discipline in executing things, or if the production line is not already connected, it might be a little more challenging. So you want to look for an area where the production line is perhaps a little more ready. And of course, it's also critical to determine how you're going to measure the impact. You want to make sure that what you're doing is generating enough value to meet the business case. And in order to do that, you have to know what it is you want to measure. And then it's time to scale. And scaling is important because it helps you to realize that value on the broader level across the network of your firm. But you also want to think about the order at which you scale so that you can execute accordingly, and do so along the way to identify any problems that you might not have seen when you were operating on a smaller level.
That's great. Thank you, Brenna. And Luciano, have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, just enforcing what Brenna said. We have seen clients trying pilots, but then stopping because they don't know how to scale. And the reason behind it is most of the time they haven't done the thinking big and understood what is the benefit that the overall network of factories that are trying to improve can benefit from digital lean.
Well, thank you very much to Brenna and to Luciano for sharing those wonderful insights with us around digital lean manufacturing. And thank you very much to our audience for joining us. If you have any more questions or would like to discuss digital lean in any more detail, please feel free to visit us on our Smart Factory Expo stand, or feel free to reach out to Brenna and to Luciano, and they'll be happy to discuss further. Thank you for joining us.